Okay, so is Bitcoin a fad or should you just ignore it? Well, you see, since 2008, the banks have lost a lot of trust. You know, I don't personally trust them. I don't know about yourself. And we now know that in a crisis, we know that your money is not guaranteed. Just have to watch the second video I made in the Bitcoin Bootcamp series called Flooding the World with Money. And it covers what happens after that 2008 crash and what the banks and governments have now put in place. So on one side, you see people seeing it for an investment. It's an alternative way of saving. It's away from the banks, and it's away from, you know, traditional investments like stocks, bonds, and property. An example is Korea. You know, you've got people, elderly people, walking into lobbies of the exchanges over there, you know, buying large amounts of bitcoins. You know, the whole world seems to be catching on. Well, many places in the world. But on the other side of the coin, as an investment, you know, you've also got places like Venezuela.
I think we as Westerners, most of us live in a privileged world where the amount of pain we are required to undertake in order to adopt Bitcoin is limited, right? In Venezuela, where at the moment being engaged in Bitcoin is an offense that will put you in jail for the rest of your life, right? And that's if you escape with your life. And already 2 miners have been prosecuted in Venezuela. They are now smuggling Antminer S9s across the border. They are setting up mining factories inside Venezuela using the free electricity to mine Bitcoin. And then they are using the revenue from Bitcoin to buy food on Amazon Prime Pantry, have that food delivered to an adjacent country, and then smuggled over the border. So you think it's difficult to figure out how to enter an 8-letter password if it also requires a capital letter and a symbol, and all of this Bitcoin wallet is too fucking complicated, and I don't know why you people bother because I have Visa debit? Go talk to a Venezuelan about what they'll go through.
You've got places like, you know, in Greece, we saw that in 2015, where really Bitcoin was the difference between abject poverty, and is in Venezuela, and people that have literally got a store of wealth that they can at least transact with and you know, do things that people that just had the money in the banks just can no longer do, you know. In Venezuela, would you really put your money in the bank? It's absolute lunacy to do so, isn't it? So, you know, Greece is an example. They had to pay for what I see as the criminal behaviour of the banks at that time, you know, and it was the people in the countries that suffered.
And he reported that in terms of IP addresses where people are coming from on his exchange, there's about 165% increase in Greeks going to the exchange.
Well, you know, as a public service on this show, we've been warning Greeks for more than a year that this was coming. As soon as Syriza came into office in the beginning of this year, I knew and stated categorically that there would be a Grexit or a default on that debt, and that probably there would have some haircuts coming for deposits and a bail-in similar to what we saw in Cyprus. So we gave ample warning to the people of Greece. The easiest way to preserve any wealth that they might have is to put it onto a Bitcoin blockchain, and that gives them the ability to move that money out of the country if they need to, or move it anywhere they want to, outside of the kleptocrats in Germany, outside of the vultures of the IMF.
So do you want your wealth stored in a bank, giving 0 returns, and on top of that, the ability for the government or the bank to take that money at a given notice? You know, if there's a bank crash in any way, shape or form, like 2008, we now know what they've got in place, yeah? Alternatively, you can put your money into a brand new asset class that over the last 5 years alone has got risen in value more than 35,000%. 35,000% in the last 5 years. So where do you think this is going to be in the next 5 years? You know, it's not a hard choice, guys. It's not a hard decision to make when you just do the research. You know, it's pretty simple. You've got to understand, for just £30, you can buy an open-ended mining contract with Swiss Gold Global you know, that pays you in Bitcoin every single day, or nigh on every single day, regular as clockwork. You know, it's not much at that level, granted, you're not going to get much Bitcoin for that, but at least it's a start, you know. And if you start to compound your payments every time it builds up, you start buying some more contracts, then I tell you what, this can start to build up fairly quickly. Combine this with the ability to interchange or convert that Bitcoin with gold and silver, which also you can buy at top prices on the platform, then you know it's genuinely a way that you can start to plan ahead for the future. And that will cover you, I think, just if we have a crisis or we don't have a crisis. It just makes sense to start planning that way. You've got to understand anybody can do this. You know, that's the brilliant thing about it. And it's absolutely free to join the platform and to start buying mining contracts, and starting to, you know, to save in gold and silver. So, you know, people are waking up, and it's a question is, are you one of them? Are you one of those people that's waking up? To find out more information on all of this subject, then visit, or you know, you might be on it now, Bitcoin Commando. Get through this website and start to look at the content that's in here and just how simple it is to come up with an alternative to the banking institutions, which are not exactly, you know, in smooth water, are they? You know, we're pretty rocky when it comes to that area, and I think everybody's in agreement with it. So, get involved. Join me on the journey. See you soon.